Probably the greatest play I've ever seen in my life, Wilt Chamberlain was involved with Gus Johnson. Wilt was standing there. Gus goes up to dunk it. Wilt catches the ball, throws Gus to the floor, still holding the ball. They carry Gus off the court with a dislocated shoulder from bouncing off the floor. I don't see how anyone in the NBA will ever be as strong as he was.
Mel Daniels was tough and rough, and anybody that kind of shoved him back, that was the last time you'd shove him because he'd come after you. And he started to fight with Flynn Robinson, and in those days we'd all jump off the bench and run to start helping the fight. Well, I was on the court and I saw 6 guys on our team come charging off the bench, and it's like they ran into a brick wall. They just stopped, frozen. And I wondered, what the heck is going on? I turned around, and out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody walking towards Mel. Now, Mel was one of the strongest people I've ever met. You shake his hand, it might kill you. He picked Mel up, he walked right up to Mel, picked him up off the ground, and here's his legs are dangling like a little kid's. Had him in a vice, and and told him, "Now, Mel, you better calm down." Mel came back to the bench and said, "How come you guys didn't come on and help me with Wilt?" And Freddie looked at him and said, "You got to be kidding, right? Nobody's going to mess with." Wilt was the strongest human being I've ever seen in my life.
Everybody always points to Michael and making all these changes or things, but Wilt Chamberlain was the first one that really made changes. He was the first dominant person of basketball.
But in Michael's era, it was one-hand check. When Wilt was playing, it was two-hand checks, and Earl Strom, the legendary referee who's no longer with us, said this to me a number of times. He said, "Sonny, if we called all the fouls on Wilt, we wouldn't have a game." So there was 2 sets of rules for Wilt when he played.
The one game we played was against Chicago when he had joined us, near the tail end of my career. And it was this particular game, I don't think for 6 minutes, they never got a shot that hit the rim of the basket. And, Wilt just went out, contested every shot, jump shots and everything. I never saw anything like it.
Offensive was what your specialty was, not defense.
Well,
Bill Russell.
Yeah, Bill Russell was considered to be the much finer defensive player.
Well, was he?
Yeah. I think that Bill Russell was considered to be the most fine.
And you think Wilt Chamberlain was every bit as good a defensive player as Bill Russell was? Could block as many shots?
Unfortunately, if they had kept block shots, I think you and I would both know the answer right now. Who was? Unfortunately, that didn't happen until after I left basketball.
So we're sitting up close at the Forum one night, and Wilt is dominating. Never even crossing half court, only playing defense, just blocking every shot, starting the fast break. And we're watching this game just going up and down, and Wilt is everywhere. And Sidney Wicks, playing for the Portland Trailblazers, gets the ball in a corner along the baseline. He's wide open, and he drives that basket, and he goes up to throw one down with the most unbelievable slam dunk. And Wilt, way up at the top of the key, Wilt takes one big step, reaches out, put his hand over the top of the basket, and as Sidney comes in to throw it down, Wilt just waits for it and just takes it right out of Sidney's hand, yanks it. Sidney goes falling to the ground. Wilt never touched him. Wilt takes the ball, outlets it perfectly. The Lakers are racing up the court. I'm going, oh my gosh, watching. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this big giant shadow, this huge monolith coming, and he comes right over to me. And it's Wilt. I look back and it's Wilt, and the game is going on in the fast break. And Wilt puts his hand down to me. He says, "Hey, Billy, you're doing a great job up there at UCLA. You be sure and tell Johnny Wooden hi for me." And then he turns right back and goes back and gets in the game and blocks another shot, and the Lakers are off to the races again.
Wilt takes the championship home to Philadelphia, and so finally Philadelphia has that championship figure. The kid from Overbrook High has his ring and can stand up and say, "I'm a winner."
And he was a winner. And he would have been a winner sooner. But what happens with all big-time scorers, coaches put a tremendous amount of pressure on them to produce and produce offensively. Once the big guy got offensive players around him, all of a sudden those numbers offensively dropped. He only averaged 24 points a game, but yet he got 24 rebounds a game. Other guys scored. He was able to, as Russell was able to, with that supporting cast, win himself a title.
He would later say Alex Hannum was the coach who was able to convince him to modify his game.
This year, I was fortunate to take over a team that had the talent that allowed Wilt to play the style of ball he did this year. It was not necessary for him to score in order to win. It wasn't necessary for him to carry the whole load offensively. He had the type of talent to play with, and this gave me all kinds of weapons.
Hannum was able to convince him to modify his game.
And convince him so why Wilt's coachable. He wanted to win. He wanted to do whatever was necessary to go out there and win. But at the same time, he was surrounded by players that couldn't score. He had to carry the offensive load. When he recognized there was offensive players out there with him, he turned and loosed the ball and let them play with it.
He led the league in assists one year. Actually, they played in a triangle offense.
A center led the league in assists?
Yeah, 1967, 68. I think it was 8.5 was the leading number.
When he was in the latter part of his career, the news media or somebody would walk up to him and say, you can't score anymore. 50, 60, then they go back to passing the ball and whatever. If you challenged him, that just took him to another level. It's not possible for any human being to do the kinds of things that he was able to do.
If you have one player in NBA history that you could start a team around, who would it be?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Why?
Because he's the greatest big man in the history of the game. And you win with big men. And Wilt would adapt his game accordingly. If Wilt had the good fortune of having as many great teammates as Bill Russell had, I think that his record of championships would have been phenomenal. If you look and you see what he accomplished when he was surrounded by great people, the 67 Sixer team, everybody talks about that being maybe one of the greatest teams ever, and what happened? Wilt helped them win a championship because he had great personnel. Then, when he was even older, he played on the Lakers team, and they set the record for consecutive wins, won championship. I mean, why? Because Wilt was willing to do whatever is necessary. Heck, he led the league in assists one time as a center. This guy was a phenomenon.
I played, I guess, 6 years against Wilt Chamberlain, and he was a guy that was slow to anger, who was a tremendous athlete, who played under his limitations a lot. I had to play center one year, and one of the things that you were taught, just getting Wilt's path, he doesn't like offensive fouls. If you take the shoulder and you fake an offensive foul or take the charge, so to speak, he really stops becoming aggressive. And that was the one thing that, was kind of a limitation in Wilt's game.
They used to say about you, though you were by far the biggest and strongest man in the league and uncommonly skilled for a center, that you did not have a killer instinct. I don't mean that competitively, but I mean, you could have hurt guys. You could have slammed guys to the floor. You could have looked to pick fights. You didn't do that.
That was one of the saving things about playing against a guy with that physically imposing. And
That's good and bad.
You could rack him up, and you know that he's not going to really hurt you.
Did you need more killer instinct?
Well, it could be said. It could be said. But also remember, when you're my size, because I knew I was bigger and stronger than everybody else, I want to also show them that I was skillful. I wasn't out there to really try to show that I could just knock people over and whatever.
And you didn't want to just play into the image of brute strength.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I want to play basketball as the way Jay Naismith really, really invented the game to be played.
Actually, it was better than he envisioned.
Probably right.
Some of the statistics about you as an athlete, an all-around athlete, that people don't know this about Wilt. Shot-putting champion, undefeated for long periods of time, bench press 500 pounds, a 50-inch vertical jump. By the way, what's Michael Jordan's vertical jump? Do we know?
I don't think it's quite that high.
Not as high.
No.
That people don't realize that they think, oh, it's all inherent in your height, and because of that, it should come easily to Wilt's.
Some of it was inherent, like that vertical jump you're talking about, but a great deal of it, I worked very hard. I mean, I taught myself how to throw a shot. I did it all by myself.
You ran track, you ran distance.
I ran track and field and so forth.
Did you have a Kansas record, a Big 8 record for a long time?
Well, yeah, I've had quite a few different type of records.
As we sit here right now, Wilt owns over 90 records in the NBA, and he hasn't played in the NBA in the last 40 years.